Welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 199, This Date in History. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson, otherwise known as RCA. I am the host, and I'm here this morning in 818 Studios with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 199. 199 of The Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, I want to welcome you to a brand new week. So glad that you have joined us. So glad that you have found us, however you have found us. Thank you so much for being with us today.
For some reason, I'm reminded of a Prince song. We're gonna party like it's, show 199.
Nice, yes.
Okay, it's not exactly 1999, but you feel me. Okay.
Oh, yeah. The sentiment is the same. We are on the cusp of a very large milestone.
It seems to be. Yes, we are on the cusp. Yes, and it's thanks to your support and your love, and we're just grateful that we get to guide you along the journey, or maybe not guide, but support. Sometimes guide, probably. Sometimes we make you mad, and that's good. We've given up trying to please everyone, but what we are seeking to do is to give spiritual truth. And sometimes that can be really difficult to hear because of where we are in life. Sometimes you may disagree with us. We encourage that. Think for yourself. Try these principles out on your own. You can say, you're full of it. And then I say, try it for yourself. And so it's great. We have a lot of wonderful supporters from all around the world, and we're grateful. We also know people do not have the ability to give financially, but need to be lifted. And of course, you are welcome. You are invited, and always happy to have you as a part of our show. And really hope that you're listening and, helping those around you. That's part of what we see we're doing, is just giving you tools to relate better, in life and bring you into more happiness. So we firmly believe that God's will for us is good. We firmly believe that God is present in you. And we also know that your decisions, your consciousness is what makes life, right? So that's really important for today's show. And Dave, give us that title, will you?
Today's episode for 199 is This Date in History. This date in history.
Whoa. I feel like there should be some sound effect there.
What kind of sound effect are you hearing?
Boom.
Like a sub drop. Here, I'll add one. I'll add one in post production.
That this date in history is in a very important topic for you today. So when I was little, when I say little, like 4th or 5th grade, I used to love to get up and read the paper. I saw all the adults around me being very interested in the world around me, and my family was pretty involved. My family was pretty involved in civil rights, and so we were always keenly interested in what was going on in the news. I also had a family member who served in the House of Representatives, my uncle, and I was a page, as a youngster, and worked in the Capitol. So I just realized that's a weird factoid nobody ever knew.
I never knew that. In Georgia?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yes.
Wow. I never knew
Yep.
that.
And I got my picture made with the Speaker of the House,
Oh, wow.
So yes, I was, my family was pretty interested in what was going on in the world. We weren't considered activists, I wouldn't say, but like my mom and I, for instance, did a lot of work. We did a lot of work in homeless shelters. We did a lot of handing out of like government surplus food. We made meals, we served. And my mom had a real intense desire to have me view everyone the same. Now you're saying, what does this have to do with this date in history? Well, I'm getting there. So, every morning, about 4th or 5th grade, I started getting up and reading the paper. And I would read the news of the day, and I was very interested in what was going on in South Africa and apartheid and all that. I just could not believe in, the time I was living that was still going on anywhere in the world. And then there was always a part of the paper that was called This Date in History. I don't know if any of you remember that. Sometimes you would see it on the news. They would talk about whose birthday it was, or who had passed away this day, or the moon landing, right? Or when the mission returned from the moon. It was like, what happened on this date in history? And you felt special if you had a birthday with Jackie Gleason or something, which I think mine is the same. I'm trying to remember.
I think mine's
who else.
with Morgan Freeman.
There you go. See, we know. That's cool, Dave, with all your work. Yeah. So this date in history is today. Bum, bum, bum. This date in history today is about you. Yes. This date in history is about you. I believe each one of us is here to make some kind of impact. And when I say some kind, of course, I mean positive, good, spiritual, to be a blessing. And what I know is that many of us choose otherwise. But if you're listening to this, I know that you're a spiritual soul. I know that you seek to do good in the world. I know you're trying to live a spiritual life where you are care for those around you, where you lead your life with love. But what if you knew that you were really important? And, it's really interesting because I've studied for many, many years the speeches of Martin Luther King Jr. I've listened to recordings. I have a book about his life. I visited the King Center. And there's one where he talks about us wanting to be important from the ego aspect, right? He was talking about when James and John wanted to sit by, Jesus in heaven and all that stuff. But what I heard this time in my mind this morning during my meditation, it was really interesting, was in his voice, it is very interesting, you are important. And I thought, how interesting that this comes through today on the day I am going to talk about this date in history on the podcast. So what I'm telling you is that I know this is the message for today. When I hear Dr. King's voice in my mind, it's like this is sometimes the voice Spirit gives me about moving forward on something, because I'm so connected with his ministry and life and his teachings and his letters and his speeches. I mean, I've read all that. And I mean, I'm sure there's plenty I don't know, but I'm telling you, when that voice comes through, that tells me something. So we want to think about our importance, though not from the ego place, right? Of, oh, well, I'm important and you're not. More like, I'm important just like you. Right. Just like Morgan Freeman or Jackie Gleason or the people that we might share this date in history with, the Judy Garlands. Everybody wants to be born young. Oh, I share Marilyn Monroe's birthday, this date in history. It's interesting in Unity that our prayer for protection was taken. I think it's the Apollo 11 mission. Buzz Aldrin took the prayer for protection to the moon.
Yeah.
Right. Like somebody gave him the prayer. He didn't know anything about Unity, but that was really instrumental, in his feeling connected and protected by God on this, on the Apollo 11 mission. So that was a big date in history. So what are you doing today on your date in history? Yeah, just let that sink in for a minute. There is something very alluring about our culture right now, that there's always somebody to blame. I'm not saying things should not change. I'm not saying I don't believe in injustice. What I'm saying is that As long as we're blaming someone else, we're not taking responsibility for our lives and for our condition. I know 50 and 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds even, that are still blaming their parents. Friends, are you hearing that? A 70-year-old still blaming their parents. They haven't been a child for 60 years, and they're still blaming their parents. Some are blaming their exes. Some blame their kids. Well, if you wouldn't have needed this and that, boy, but that does to a kid's psyche. So this date in history, what are you going to do with that? So now let me back up. Because you might say, well, but there's nothing I can do today. Well, we have to go back to last night because last night, if you went to bed, taking to bed everything from the day before and the day before and the day before, and you've done no release, you've done no reflection, you've done no inner work, there's no inner awareness, there's no discipline around your thoughts and feelings or spiritual practice, then as you wake up today, guess what? It's going to be just like the day before. If you've done no intention, no clearing, no forgiving, no thoughts, no mindfulness practice, no physical activity, if you just took in information all day, if you scrolled on your phone, if you binged on Netflix, and you got up the next morning, then guess what? This date in history is not going to be much for you. And that's just the deal. And there's something about our culture that really wants to lure us to sleep. I've not noticed it as much as I have in the last, say, 4 or 5 years. I'm not sure it's that because our increasing dependence on electronics. Like, I'm thrilled you're listening to us on one of those, but I also think you shouldn't have it in your hand 24/7. A lot of us go to sleep with those things in our hands. Right. So, and no judgment, love you, mean it, but you got to do some work around awareness, whether that's the night before, the next morning. So, it was about 25 years ago, probably, when I was learning about Sharon Poindexter's work. And now Sharon has since passed. She passed from a bout with cancer, or she had a serious bout with cancer and made her passing. But one of the things she would say is that each day stretched out before you is a day full of possibility. But if you are bringing into today the things from yesterday, last week, last month, childhood, then this day holds very little potential for you because you have not done the work to free yourself from the past. You have not done the work to free yourself from what has been. But even that is a choice. Right? So if there's something you're not happy about, but your behaviors are staying the same, guess what? You just decided this date in history by your past. This is a difficult truth to hear. If you're in diabetes, you probably had something to do with that. Some of our physical challenges are completely based on bad behaviors from us. Think about that. Think about that. Not dealing with stress leads to high blood pressure, strokes, heart attacks. And you can't medicate it away. You cannot medicate it away. Something needs to change. So for this date in history, how are you going to show up? How are you going to show up? So it's like, if you know God's will for you is good, if you know God lives in me, if you know I'm creating my life, then of course we seemingly would want to, the night before we go to bed, clear our minds, do some forgiveness work, get some awareness on board of If there's miscommunications, which part is ours? If there's misunderstandings, do we need to go make amends? If I'm bringing things in, from the past, is there something I need to clean up, forgive, let go? How can I move on? And I'm not giving you more specifics because sometimes you and only you know what's yours to do. And I'm going to give you for instance. Recently, I made the decision to really focus on my physical body. I was guided to do it. I love to do it. I was not happy with how I was feeling. In general, my blood tests are pretty good, now. But I was just feeling like I wasn't living my ultimate self, where I could be. And I was thinking about, back to my mom, and I thought, my mom didn't start running till she was like 55, and she was running with me. I was in school, and I thought, I'm approaching 55. That was a kind of a strange reality, to go, oh, I remember when my mom changed her whole life at 55. Like before that, she had, I've mentioned this before, that she cured herself of arthritis by changing her diet. Well, then when I was in sports and I told her I needed to do some running, she said, well, I'd love to run with you. And then we had a friend who was a long distance runner kind of help us. And we all three started running in the morning before school. And we ran, as a matter of fact, we ran the Peachtree Road Race in Atlanta, which is like 6.2 or 6.3 miles, within about 6 months of starting to run. So we were really on it. And interestingly, I just got my mom's shirt from that, from a sibling that still had it, which was super cool. But I was thinking back, wow, my mom at 55, changed everything. And I thought it might be something about this time in life too, that I'm in this age. It's like, okay, how do I want to live the rest of my life? It's at least half, if not more than half over, assuming I have a, the base, basically a full life to live, right? Most of the women in my family live into their 90s. So I might have 40 years, but maybe only 30. How do I want to live those? So something in me woke up about, it's time to take better care of the body again. Because I've gone through many derivations of this. It's been diet, it's been exercise. And now, I've done horseback riding for years. And so I've always been very active in school. I played volleyball and basketball, but as an adult mom, full-time working person, I hadn't found, because I took a break from horses, so it's like trying to find my right place. I think I've really found that with the martial arts, because I already walk and do other things. But it was like, oh, my body needs to express, my body needs to protect, my body needs to feel its strength. And I'm in better shape now than probably I was at 30 years old. I was in pretty good shape then because I was diving. But this new regimen, I feel so alive. And all it took was a choice. I mean, I have to show up. I have to pay money for the courses. And I'm also doing some, private coaching, because I thought I want to get better quicker than I can in these classes. Right. So every day I am taking on a new aspect of myself, and even, I don't want to say new identity, but it's a new aspect of my identity. I know I can protect myself physically. I know I could protect my son physically. That is a very empowering place to be. So it's like part of this next aspect of my life, part of this date in history is I am protected, right? I am protected. And during my younger years, I wasn't. So this is very, very healing for me to do this. So what are you going to choose this date in history to say, this is what I'm about now, or this is what I need to do now? And nobody around you might understand it. They might say, you're going to take a crocheting class? You work construction. And you go, yeah, it gives me a great vibe. You're going to learn to knit? What are you, crazy? You're a bodybuilder. Yes, it's very zen when I knit. It's very often, friends, the polarity of what you're doing and how you've been known before. Right? So this date in history, we're going to be back with a little more right after these brief messages. Hello, friend, and thank you for listening to The Authentic Spiritual Journey. I love connecting with you through the podcast and through my online classes. I have a one-night workshop that is on Monday, April 25th, and it's called Morning Pages. The Morning Pages is a wonderful spiritual tool that will help you deepen your process, and there's a profound aspect to its impact and even in the way you work it. You can engage the chakras, you can bring in the 12 powers to deepen the journaling process of the Morning Pages, or you can keep it light. So the Morning Pages is a wonderful class. There's no actual fee for the class. I just ask that you make a donation to my foundation when the class is complete. So Monday, April 25th at 7 p.m. online only is the Morning Pages. If you want to know more about it, simply go to my website, CynthiaAliceAnderson.com, and read all about the Morning Pages on Monday, April 25th. If it looks like something you want to do, simply book now, and you will receive a link to join me on Monday, April 25th from 7 to 8 p.m. Blessings on the journey, and we will see you soon. Again, thanks for listening. Welcome back. We're glad you're with us. And I tell you, this is an important topic, this date in history. I hope you're resonating with it. I have a fantasy that Dave's going to put in a sound effect every time I say it. This date in history.
We added the one at the beginning. I do need a point of clarification. I do not share a birthday with Morgan Freeman. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, he's born. My sister shares a birthday with Morgan Freeman, but I share a birthday with Seth Meyers and Denzel Washington and David Archuleta from American Idol. If that matters.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
It turns out a lot of folks born December 28th. So,
right. Well, you share a birthday with my nephew.
Yep.
So that's very interesting.
Very cool.
Right. So I've always noticed when people are talking, like at the office or in church, and there's a friend I have who's been a dear supporter of the podcast. We share a birthday, and we're like, "It's our birthday!" We always have these little hand gestures and hugs and, hey, yeah, maybe it is 12 years apart, but we share our birthday. It's funny. It's funny how that is. So you see, it is exciting to know that you share a date, a special date with somebody else. So what is your special date about today? So I think too that I'm moving into a place in my life where I just really understand that every day is really a blessing. Every day is a blessing. And there's something about being a mom and having a teenager that I just am so honored to parent and so honored to watch his development. I just feel like every time we have some time together that's meaningful, it's so important. And so I just feel like every day is such a gift. So I take a lot of opportunities, often to tell him how amazing he is and how destined for success he is. I was traveling a few years ago, and he had something really important coming up. And I couldn't be there, and that was very unusual, but it was a big corporate gig. I absolutely had to take it for the money and for the experience to meet people. It was like, this is my job. I'm sorry, sweetie, I have to go, And he goes, oh, I understand, Mama, it's no problem. But what I did is I recorded this little video message and sent it to him. And of course, I kept the message. And every now and then I'll watch it again and I'll think, have I told him this lately? And I'll say things like, you know what? Some people are just destined for success, and that's you.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
I could not agree more. I've really enjoyed, with my time at Unity North Tampa, just getting to know him even more because he joined the AV team. And
as he's matured too. Yeah.
so impressive, and I've been around, young people a lot, I'm telling you, there are college graduates who don't have the wherewithal, the maturity, and I know you've probably been hearing that the whole, his whole life is. But
Mm.
if there was like a poster child for old soul, this is not his first time through.
I know.
It would be Josh,
Well, that's
he is
sweet.
absolutely destined for great things, and he carries it well. There is like zero like ego. There's zero, and of course you get to see, I get to see the nice bubbly kind of polished Josh on Sunday morning.
That's how he always is. No,
It's-
he's very authentic and consistent. Of course, he's a normal teenager. Sometimes he doesn't want to take out the trash, But the other day he said, "Oh, as we're leaving, why don't I take the opportunity to take the trash and recycle out?" I said, "That'd be awesome. Thank you, sweetie." I don't know many 14-year-olds that would ever do that.
Yeah.
But he's also heard his whole life. His whole life. Remember that 14 years, nearly every night going to sleep. Sweetie, you're destined for greatness.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't hear that over and over and over and not begin to believe it. And clearly his soul, it's all him, but when then it's supported, it is a winning combination. And so I think, and this is not, to say I have the best kid in the world or anything like that.
It's arguable.
But it is to say, me lifting him up helps me treasure those moments. Because being in ministry, I have really gotten to see over and over and over how every day could be our last. I could go for coffee after this and get hit by a semi and never give another message. So after my, health scare years ago, I have woken up every morning and said, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm going to make the very most of this day. And I continue to do that. And it helps me treasure the moments. It helps me make the dates matter. I remember in Orlando several years ago after the Pulse shooting, my phone was ringing real early in the morning, and it was one of our board members, and she was very involved and down at the center in Orlando, which kind of became the hub after the shooting for, help and support and this for survivors. And they were holding a press conference, but I didn't know anything about the press conference. What she said is, as soon as church is over, can you come down? And I said, of course, yes, I will be there. And man, it was so hard to leave that day, my son that day, because I thought, I don't know if I'm coming home. Right? But I thought, I got to be there. And I found out later, when I was there, somebody did leave a bomb out front. Police were able to take it away. We were all safe and all of that. But there was, and another day I was there with my son a few weeks later, and there was another bomb scare, and we were both there. So I'm telling you this to say, we never know what life is going to send. We never know when it's going to be our last day. And so I try to make every day matter, right? And so really, that's what this is about. This date, this date in history is about doing the work of the soul to make this day matter in your life, in your world, and of course in the world at large. But I think sometimes when I say that, people go, I don't impact the world. I'm just a mom, or I'm just retired, or, I don't even have kids. I'm just retired and I live in a retirement center. Well, can you be kind to the people that care for you? Can you, call a family member? Can you do your forgiveness work? So what I'm talking about is on the most minute level, making your life matter to someone else. And usually it's the tiniest things that we might do. Lifting somebody up, giving a little hug, a little touch of a hand, like, hey, I'm here. If you need to talk, I'm here. Anything like that. So, but for this day to matter, you have to have intention around that. You have to be able to leave what happened the day before behind in terms of negative experiences and try to move forward and know today is a new day. And you all know that I love psychology and the study of the psyche, but sometimes we get so busy going backwards, we forget just to live. It's like, yes, this happened. Yes, this needs to be healed. Yes, we need to do some therapeutic work. But forever, at some point, you got to live. At some point, you got to put what you're learning into practice and move into the present, move forward. Right? So think about that. What are you doing with this day in history in your own life, in your family's life? What is the difference you're making? What is the choices what are the choices you are choosing to make? And what is the impact? And even not making a choice, friends, is a choice. A lot of us think, well, I don't know, I'm not going to do anything today. Well, you just chose to, not live. So think about that. This date in history, this is a gift for you. Every day is a gift. Every day. Stop blaming politicians. Stop blaming the right wing or the left side or whatever. Quit blaming everybody. Make it happen. This date in history. Quit blaming your race or your orientation, for goodness sakes. Take a stand for you. Who are you? Who you are. This date in history, what are you going to be about? So what I've noticed in my own journey is a lot of times there's ways that in the past, definitely, I've given away my power in really subtle ways. And when I say power, I mean the ability to make a decision that is clearly mine. It's easy to listen to others too much and what they think. And sometimes you're the only one that knows what's yours to do. You're the only one that has the vision for your life. So you can't ask your spouse or your friend, should I take this class or should I do this thing? Now, it might mean a conversation about why it's important to you and why you feel you need to do it. But, you don't just go, march downstairs and say, well, guess what? I'm doing this and you better freaking get over it. It's not that. It's not that, but it's about listening to that inner voice, So in the scriptures, it says it's a still small voice. So what works for me is a little time of quiet every morning. And then before bed, kind of clearing the slate of my mind and just sending out love if there's somebody I've kind of held some bad feelings against, or, if I felt hurt by somebody or misunderstood, or then I try to clear that out before I go to sleep. And then as I wake up the next morning, ready to do my intentions and my gratitudes and, my I am and think about my self-care, well, then I can be clearer and clearer when it's time to do that. It's like, like this morning, I'm going to go back to that. I'd never written the word. So, I do my I am every morning, which is where I'm asking, okay, what is mine to do today? As a matter of fact, it's using the morning pages, which is my class coming up, right? So at the end of the month, it's using my morning pages. And the first thing is, what is my I am? In other words, what is the highest spiritual energy I need to bring on today? And it's often love, but sometimes it's strength. Sometimes it's peace. Well, you can see I can't be in the highest level of peace if I'm bringing all this old energy from the day before into the next day. It's not possible. I won't even think the word peace. And sometimes I have to do a little internal work to get to that I am. It's like, well, wait, I'm not getting anything. What's that about? And today, for the very first time, I wrote the word important. And I thought, wow, Jesus didn't even want to claim his importance. He was like, I don't really want to start my ministry now. Yeah. Took a Jewish mother, honey, come on, it's time. Right. So even Jesus didn't want to claim his importance. So it's something that I think we grow into in terms of realizing our spiritual power and the impact we actually have in the world. I think everything in the world minimizes who we are and what is ours to do, what we're here to do, because everybody's trying to sell us something to make us quote unquote better. And I'm saying you're already all that in a bag of chips. You're already all that, right? You're already all that. So now you just have to decide, what am I going to do with this date in history? But there's some work to do before. You got to clear out, see what's there for you, do some healing work. You got to make that happen. But then every day is a new day. And if you're intending every morning to live to the best of your ability this new day, well, there's nothing more anyone could ask of you. But if you have desires, you have things you want to do, and you don't move forward, well, guess what? That's on you too. I believe God's will for you is good. I believe that God, the very nature of God is good and intends good for us always. And I believe that God is within you. If that's true, you are certainly important. You are certainly important. And especially, I want to mention, if you're, dealing with these feelings of not enough or struggling with depression, just write a note and put it on your mirror. I am important. I do matter. It's easy to get into that right now because of how the world is always telling us what we need. So please, please, please remember, I am important. I'm important to God. I'm important to the universe. I'm important to my family. I'm important to my friends and loved ones. The world needs your light, or you would not be here. So, dear friend, my hope for you is that you will wake up every morning realizing that this day has tremendous, tremendous potential for you, that we spend a few moments just getting centered, realizing that you have something very good to give the world. So we thank you as always for listening. We hope to see you very, very soon. And we also love, by the way, when you share our show with friends. Hey, get people together, do a watch party, and recommend it, because we want this message of love, of acceptance, of living a spiritual life, all around our world. So thank you for listening, dear friends, and blessings on the journey.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2022 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.